Power strips and surge protectors are ugly. Yes, there are beautiful options out there, but they just sit on the floor with even uglier power bricks and cables coming out of them. I've come up with a solution to not only hide the power strips and cables, but also to add a little bit of style to your living space. And this video is brought to us by the Woodworkers Guild of America. Like many of my projects, this one starts off without any plans and picking out what I hope will be enough wood. I'm breaking away from my usual walnut look for some nice clean cherry. I think this will contrast nicely with our dark floors. I want this to work with pretty much any power strip, so I'm being generous with my dimensions. I don't have much of a game plan except to start off with a box and go from there. Anybody who's been doing this long enough knows that all woodworking is based off a rectangular box. Whether you're making a small container to hold all your gift cards you'll never use or a bathroom vanity, it's all just boxes. It's not going to be very big, but it has to be wide enough for my hands to fit into, so I'm testing out different widths with my vise to see what works best. Please allow me to explain what just happened. The SawStop table saw has a safety feature where if the saw blade detects skin, a brake comes up, slams up against the blade, and then pulls it underneath the table, all within a fraction of a second. It is nearly impossible to draw blood on a SawStop table saw. Now, like skin, my miter gauge is made out of a conductive material. And because my blade is at a 45-degree angle, it puts it a little bit closer to the miter gauge. And if you look here, it barely, I mean just barely touched the miter gauge, which set the brake off, slammed it up against the blade, pulled it underneath the table, and didn't allow me to finish my cuts because it thought the miter gauge was my finger. I have done this before, and you would think I would learn a lesson, but I keep forgetting. And it's always when either my miter gauge is at an angle or the blade is at an angle, I forget to check. And it's pretty costly because a new brake cost $100. This particular blade cost $110. and $70. I don't buy disposable blades. I use them for a few months and then I return them to forest to have them sharpened. Sometimes it destroys the blade, usually not, but sometimes. This time it did not destroy the blade, but it did knock off one of the carbide teeth. So when I send this in to get it sharpened, I gotta have forest replace a tooth. I'm not exactly sure how much that's gonna cost, but let's just assume $50. So $100 for a break, $50 for a repair job, and we'll be back in business. What I should have done is loosen these two knobs, slide the miter gauge over, tighten them back up, and I'd have an extra $150 in my pocket right now. The back side of this, which will be up against the wall, needs some cutouts to allow access to the wall outlet. And the bottom is made out of perforated sheet metal to allow airflow so heat doesn't build up. All the joinery is going to be mitered corners, and since end grain soaks up glue, I'm pre-gluing and drying before assembly. I'm not adding any other reinforcements to my joints since people keep telling me that glue on end grain is just as strong as long grain. I don't doubt that. My issue with it is, as wood expands and contracts over the seasons, that glue is going to become brittle and that joint is going to weaken. So in a few years, I'll check the joints and make adjustments from there. Rule number 4, consider everything an experiment. One of these days, I'll stop bragging about it, but this tape dispenser is one of my all-time favorite tools of all time. The stretchy 3M automotive tape makes for some great clamps. That came out really good. I've got a whole sheet of this perforated sheet metal. I don't know what I'm gonna do with, but it looks so cool. So you'll definitely be seeing me use that in future projects. So this needs to sit up off the floor, and I want it to actually cover the wall outlet so you won't see the wall outlet. And so I got some cherry dowels that I'm gonna use for legs. And I want to wrap the dowels around the corner. That means I need to somehow cut a 90-degree piece of pizza out of this dowel. How do I do that safely and accurately? I think I am going to install this 90-degree V-bit in the router. And that'll work, but I still have one more issue to work around. I can't just run a dowel through the router because it'll spin, giving me a bad and unsafe cut. So I'm temporarily hot gluing a board to the dowel, and then I can run that board up against my router fence. I also have a stop set up so I only route so far. And with the help of a heat gun, I can remove the dowel from its sled. If you're curious about this fancy router table from the future, I've got a video about it from my past. It's definitely overkill, and woodworkers love overkill. It turns out the rear access wasn't big enough, so I'm making some adjustments. I am designing this whole thing on the fly and don't have much of a game plan. For the grommets, I'm 3D printing them on my X1 Carbon. Of course, you could make these out of wood, or you can even buy grommets, but I'm trying to understand my 3D printer a little bit more and how to incorporate that into my woodworking. As a general design rule that I follow, any element that I add to a piece needs to repeat somewhere else to give it continuity. And since I'm 3D printing a red grommet, I'm also 3D printing some red trim that will work as accent pieces that will live in harmony with the grommets. We're going to have a brainstorming session shortly on a few improvements I can make to this. Hold tight. For me, woodworking is all about the journey of creating the world around me and problem solving like we're doing today. These days, there are hundreds of creators making woodworking videos on YouTube, but not many focus on efficient, professional, step-by-step instructions to guide you through the process. I'll admit, I'm guilty of this myself. My videos focus mostly on creativity and inspiration. And that is where today's sponsor comes in, the Woodworkers Guild of America. The Woodworkers Guild of America is your go-to online resource for woodworking instruction, ideas, and tips. They offer hundreds of expertly crafted videos covering everything from beginner basics to advanced techniques like wood turning, cabinet making, and finishing. These videos are taught by friendly professional instructors who break everything down with clear demonstrations and expert tips, so you always know exactly what to do next. One of the things I appreciate most about the Woodworkers Guild of America is how focused they are on making you a better woodworker. I'm always looking for ways to be more creative with my woodworking and thinking outside the normal 90-degree box. There's a great new video on hot pipe wood bending that opens up a whole world of possibilities. George is such a great instructor, and his clear step-by-step approach makes even complex techniques feel achievable. For just $1.49, you can join the Woodworkers Guild of America as a premium member for an entire year and access their incredible library of resources. This special deal is available for new members only and is an unbeatable way to gain the confidence and skills you need to elevate your craft. You heard that right, for just $1.49 for your first year. The first 1,000 subscribers to click on the link in the description or scan the QR code here on screen will get this incredible offer. Don't miss out on a chance to join a community of passionate, like-minded woodworkers and get the step-by-step guidance you've been looking for. Okay, let's finish cleaning up this mess. Okay, so it's not perfect, but none of my projects are, especially a version 1, but it does work. There's some improvements that I could make. One is it doesn't sit all the way up against the wall. That is because of the baseboards. So it needs just a little bit of overhang, and I would feel a little bit better about that. Number 2 is the lid is not heavy enough. So I can push this in right now, but when I pull this out, sometimes the lid wants to pop off. I put a little dab of hot glue on there to keep it on for this demonstration purpose. I don't think I need 5 USB-C cables coming out of there. Really, I just need 2. This could be made a lot smaller and then just maybe get one of those little USB-C bricks that goes in there. And then instead of sitting on the floor, what if it actually attached to the wall outlet, like you took the cover off and screwed in there? I think there's a lot of versions that could be done to make this look even more elegant. For a project without a plan to clean up the messy look of power strips and surge protectors, I think this came out really good. I am a huge fan of this 3D printed trim, and I'm going to be doing that a lot more. It's not something that you see every day, and I think adds a little bit of what the heck is that type of thing. And yeah, I will be doing that a lot more. Let's clean this mess up a little bit and get that cable back in there. You know what else would be nice is some sort of retractable thing that automatically you give it a little tug and then it retracts back in there. I don't know how to do that. If you know how to do that, let me know. Normally in this corner sits this sculpture that I made out of steel, wood, and epoxy a few years ago. Not many people seen that video. If you want to watch that video, you can click right here. Patreon members get early and ad-free access to my videos, along with access to our Discord, monthly coupons, and behind-the-scenes videos. Be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something. Come here, Wally. Come here. Come on. You want to be in the video? Ugh, Wally just had surgery, so I got to be really careful. Ugh. He had a little lump removed from his chest.